Trump is a liar because he said this woman was a terrorist. Not so. She was not a terrorist. She was an American citizen. Was murdered by some officers.
But I did want to start tonight with a new video of the shooting in question. Because today a right-wing outlet was the first to obtain and publish that video, which MS Now has now acquired as well. It is yet another angle of Wednesday morning's shooting, and this time, the video is from the perspective of a phone held by the shooter himself. And the right has quickly jumped on this new footage. I mean, they are all over it, claiming it somehow vindicates the ICE agent responsible for killing Renee Nicole Good earlier this week. They claim that because the shooter appears to fumble his camera, and because you can hear a loud noise, that this video must be evidence that Renee Good ran over or hit the agent with her car. That is what they have been blasting everywhere. But if you look at all of the evidence we have seen so far, that does not appear to be the case. Because so many people were filming this incident when it happened. We have a lot of footage that captured the scene from very different angles. And while I'm not a crime scene expert by any means, I certainly don't claim to be one. But when you put them all together, which we've tried to do here, the picture of what happened on Wednesday morning gets clearer. Now, DHS has said that the reason there was such a large ICE presence on that block to begin with was that an ICE vehicle had gotten stuck in the snow and other ICE vehicles had arrived to help get it out. Residents, seeing the large ICE presence, then began blowing whistles, you can hear them right there, to warn that that ICE was there. And they also started to film. That's how we get a lot of this footage. So today's new video shows the shooter filming with his phone as he walks around Renee Nicole Good's maroon SUV. Good then tells the agent, "That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you."
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you.
Okay. You then see Good pull forward slightly, you can see it on your screen, and gesture for a vehicle to go around and pass her, which it does. From here, two things happen on opposite sides of the car simultaneously. The shooter continues circling the car. In the video on the left, you can see him filming the person who appears to be Good's wife as she films him and shouts at the officer. Now in the video on the right, on the other side of the car, two more federal agents get out of this silver pickup truck and approach Good's car. Now, if you listen carefully, you can hear Good telling the agents to go around. Okay, after Good tells the agents to go around, they then told her, you could just hear that, to get the F out of the car. Good then backs her car up, away from the agents, apparently to leave. And today's new video shows her hands turning the steering wheel, clearly pointing the car in the opposite direction as the agents before she proceeds to drive forward, of course. And at the same point in the wider video, you can see that her wheels are already turned away from the agents as she begins to move forward. Okay, so that brings us to the piece of this new video the right has absolutely latched onto. A moment of impact of some kind, in which the shooter's camera becomes unstable and shaky. And this is what many on the right say is evidence that the car hit the officer. So let's look at that moment on its own. So the right has seized on those 5 seconds where you can't see much because the officer kind of fumbles his phone, to say that the car must have hit the agent who shot Good. They are claiming that that video vindicates the agent for firing those shots. But if you sync up that video with the other angle of that same moment, you can see that the car does not appear to run the agent over. In fact, the agent's feet are positioned away from the car. And as I mentioned, the car is already headed in the opposite direction. Now let's just take a moment to watch that side by side at full speed, because a lot is happening at once during the course of only about 3 seconds. It happens very fast, 3 seconds, and it's obviously hard to catch everything that's going on. But you may notice that the moment that many on the right have attributed to the car hitting the agent, that moment occurs at virtually the same time he fires his first shot. And at the very same time, he fumbles his phone. which appears to be pressed up against his body. Now, both of those things happen almost simultaneously. So between the sound of the phone's microphone potentially rubbing against the agent's clothes and the muffled sound of the first gunshot, it's hard to say what we are actually hearing. In other words, the sound that the right has seized upon could very well be the sound of his phone against his body combined with the sound of that first gunshot. Also, I can't imagine that federal agents would be encouraged to use their cell phones while on duty, especially if they really thought that they were facing a life-threatening situation. Today's new video also reveals something that was said in the seconds after the shooting. And it involves some expletives, so if you have kids around and you want to hit mute for a second, this is your moment. I mean, we cannot say for certain if it is the shooter or another agent or just a bystander. But about 3 seconds after the shots are fired, you can hear this in the shooter's video. After he shot at her 3 times, after Good's car crashes into another car down the block, the agents do not appear to rush to her aid. They do not appear to be in any rush at all. The shooter eventually approaches the car and then slowly walks back to his fellow agents and tells them to call 911.
What did you do?
You! Shame! 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 Shame!
Now later, someone who identifies himself as a doctor offers to help, but the federal agents on the scene turn him away.
I don't check a pulse.
No! Back up! Now!
I'm a physician.
I understand. We got EMS coming. I get it. Just give us a second. We have medics on scene. We have our own medics.
Where are they? Where are they?
We have medics on the scene. That was one of the last things you heard one of the officers say. Well, it ultimately took more than 6 minutes before emergency medical personnel arrived. So medics were not, in fact, on the scene. Also, we at MS Now have not independently confirmed this, but the New York Times reports that several agents, including the shooter, then got in their vehicles and drove away, leaving an active crime scene, leaving a 37-year-old mother of 3 that one of their officers had shot 3 times. Renee Goodman told those officers, "I'm not mad at you." That's the woman the Trump administration called a domestic terrorist. That's the woman whose killing Vice President J.D. Vance called a tragedy of her own making. And all this new video does is make clear that those claims are just as disgusting and ridiculous as they were before we saw this new video. She said, "I'm not mad at you." And 25 seconds after she uttered those words, she was shot.
Alex, President Donald Trump, along with members of his administration, have claimed that the ICE officer in question, Jonathan Ross, was acting in self-defense when he shot those fatal shots, killing Renee Good. The president specifically accused Good of, quote, violently, willfully, and viciously running over Ross. And he said that just within hours of this shooting happening. And just 30 minutes ago, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt posted on X that this woman was, quote, not an innocent mother dropping off her child at school. She claimed that she was a leftist insurrectionist. All of these claims have been coming out without a formal investigation, and according to the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, there was originally an agreement for this to be a joint investigation with the FBI and local officials, but they were informed that that investigation is no longer, and said that was a decision made by the U.S. Attorney's Office. President Trump was asked about that decision. I want you to take a listen.
Do you believe that the FBI should be sharing evidence with state officials in Minnesota?
Well, normally I would, but they're crooked officials. I mean, Minneapolis and Minnesota, what a beautiful place, but it's being destroyed. It's got an incompetent governor, fool. I mean, he's a stupid person.
Now, President Trump there is referring to widespread fraud allegations in Minnesota involving state child care payments. It's something that Vice President Vance also sought to bring attention to when he briefed the press here at the White House. He claimed that Jonathan Ross is covered by, quote, absolute immunity. And as we see these nationwide protests, including here in Washington, D.C., Attorney General Pam Bondi is warning anyone that obstructing and impeding federal enforcement could result in prosecution.